What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of the How to Vegan podcast, or welcome to the How to Vegan podcast if this is your first time tuning in, and if it is, then welcome. I'm super glad that you're listening. Just an FYI, this episode is going to be a little bit more chilled out and a little bit more raw and uncut and real than some of the previous episodes. I usually have like a little intro and outro kind of like outlined and at least kind of thought out in my head before I record these episodes so that I don't just stumble across my words like I'm probably doing now. But I'm super busy right now. I work for Treefort Music Fest doing artist hospitality stuff for them. It's one of my favorite things in the entire world. So if you don't know what Treefort Music Fest is, check it out. I'll leave links in the show notes and description and everything. But yeah, I'm super busy with that and still putting out YouTube videos and trying to get this podcast out as regularly as I can, and this just might have to take a little bit of a backseat as far as priority goes, because Treefort is the third week of March, so it's spring break, and it's just crunch time. So other people are relying on me for that job, and it's really important that I do a good job. So if I'm not as present with this podcast as I want to be or should be, which would be weekly, then that's why. I'm just super busy right now, and I thought I'd be real with y'all. So yeah, today's episode is all about today's episode is going to be about meal planning and tips and tricks in the kitchen on saving time and making meal planning easy, because I know a lot of you guys don't think it's easy, and that's something that holds you back. So that's what this week's episode, that's what today's episode is going to be about, and we'll dive into that in a minute. But just in case any of you guys are wondering who I am, my name is Kristen. I'm the host of this podcast. If you haven't figured that out yet by now, you can check out my website at kristenemily.com. I also have a YouTube channel and a Facebook business page. I have a Facebook group with over 75,000 members that is also called How to Vegan. So if you're looking for a good community of like-minded people to help support you and share and motivate and inspire, then go check out my group. Again, I'll leave links for all of this in the show notes and the description. You can always head over to kristenemily.com and click on the podcast tab up at the top, and then find all the episodes there and show notes and links. The podcast is on iTunes and Stitcher and on my website. You can download them there if that's easier. I'm working on getting it on Spotify, and it's also on SoundCloud. So putting it out there, trying to make it happen. So that's what's going on with me and the podcast. So let's just get into the episode, because it's supposed to be all about saving time and money, and I don't want to blabber for too long because I don't have an intro written, like I said, but just being real with y'all. And I'm still really wanting to put out content and put out things that are helpful and meaningful for you guys. So I really wanted to get a podcast filmed and put out and recorded and all of that for you guys. And when I say filmed, if you're unaware, these podcasts are on a YouTube channel called How to Vegan Podcast. Go subscribe, and you can watch the unedited video versions where I mess up and get mad at my cat for jumping on things and playing with my cords and all that stuff. So if you're into that kind of stuff, go check those out. Yeah, it's a good time. All right, so I'm done talking and all of that stuff. So thanks for kind of understanding and knowing that this is just a little bit more of a raw and real style podcast, because I didn't have time to write a big old intro. So thanks for bearing with me. All right, so let's get right into it. I kind of have top 10. These are like, okay. So let's just get right into it. These are my top 10-ish, kind of maybe have 12 meal planning tips and tricks. And this is just going to make, like I said, meal planning easy for you guys. So the first thing that I have on my list is to pick a day to plan your meals for the week and stick to it. Like, stick to it. Discipline. This is something I've been like really working on lately, and I used to use the term sacred discipline to kind of make sure that I'm focusing on what I want to focus on and remembering that it's bigger than me and the reasons are bigger than me. But lately, I recently read a quote, I can't even remember where it was, and it said, discipline is remembering what you want. And it just made it so easy for me. And that is kind of part of like meal planning 101 is discipline and making sure you're remembering what you want. So if you're wanting healthy meals throughout the week and you're wanting to stick to a whole food, plant-based diet, then you might have to do some meal planning and some grocery shopping and some meal prep, which isn't maybe everybody's favorite thing to do, but it's worth it if you know why you're doing it. So picking a day to plan your meals for the week and sticking to it is huge. So I like to do it on the weekends. I have a super flexible schedule, so I don't do it at the same time every week, although I would like to. Mondays are ideal for me to like go grocery shopping and prep and all that for the week. So pick a day that works best for you, whether it's Saturday or Sunday, or if you have a really flexible schedule, maybe a couple days a week that you kind of work on stuff, and then stick to it and work on that for a while, and it'll start to become routine, and then you'll have stuff made for the week and you'll feel good to go. So it's all about that discipline / sacred discipline, whatever you want to call it. But that's my first tip. Tip number 2 is to focus on 2 meals that you'd like to have available for lunch and dinner. So usually I'll just try to think of like a lighter type meal and then more of like a heavier kind of warming dinner type meal. It's winter now in Idaho, so that's why I like to have a warming dish. So, and then if you're just starting out and that's all you want to prep, then done, boom, you have at least a couple of options. So I like to prep like a massaged kale salad and have that kind of ready in the fridge to go, as well as maybe like a curry or a chili and some rice or something like that. And then that way I can like interchange. If I want one for dinner one day and one for lunch the next day, I can swap or whatever. I can have the chili with the salad. I can make a baked potato and pop the chili on top. So just having at least 2 things made can make a huge difference. So if you're feeling really overwhelmed and can't do like divided out meals for each day and breakfast, lunch, dinner and all that, just pick 2 kind of interchangeable lunch and dinner recipes and stick with that. And that will be really helpful. For those of you watching the unedited YouTube videos, I just remembered that I was looking at the viewfinder and not the actual lens again, like the last episode. If you watched the last episode, I did the exact same thing the entire episode. And I'm trying to look at the lens now because I have a brand new camera and it's totally different for me. So I'm gonna look at the lens, and if I'm looking this way, I'm looking at the viewfinder because I'm still not used to this camera. Okay, so the third tip that I have for you guys is to make enough food, when you make your food, to have a good amount of leftovers for the week. So don't just make like one little meal and that's it. Try to make things in bulk, and whether you're freezing it or just having it available as leftovers, this can save you so much time. So when I make curry, like for dinner, I don't just make it for the 2 of us and that's it. I try to make as much as I possibly can with what I have, and then I just have it for the week, and we can have it for lunch or dinner or whatever, kind of play around with how we use it. So making leftovers is ideal and crucial. It can save you so much time, and that's usually what I eat for dinner, or no, not dinner, for lunch. That's usually what I eat for lunch is leftovers, because it's just in there. I just heat it up real quick, or I can take it with me if I'm going somewhere, and it's really easy and yummy, and leftovers are delicious anyway. So leftovers, tip number 3. Tip number 4 that I have for you guys is to make a large batch of some sort of grain. And this will kind of depend on how you eat. If you're doing kind of a raw vegan diet and it's more summertime, this might not be applicable to you, but I like to always have some sort of like large batch of grain on hand, cooked, ready to go. So usually it's brown rice, brown basmati rice, regular brown rice, short grain brown rice, or quinoa or amaranth or millet, some sort of grain that you can have on hand and that you can just quickly add some vegetables to and have kind of a quick little meal if you're in a hurry. And then tip number 5 is to have a large batch of some sort of legume on hand as well. I don't know why I did that for legume, but to have some sort of legume on hand, like a batch of black beans. And I cook mine in my Instant Pot. If you guys want recipes for this stuff, then definitely check out my YouTube channel, Kristen Emily. Find me on YouTube. I have Instant Pot recipes, other vegan recipes, all that stuff. So I just cook my rice and beans in the Instant Pot, and sometimes I do it together, sometimes I do it separately. So just making sure that you have a large batch of a grain and a large batch of legume. And when I say legume, if you're not sure what that is, just like beans, it's kind of what I mean. So like I said, I like to have black beans or kidney beans or pinto beans or peas or some sort of legume. Those are kind of my staples. Garbanzo beans are another good one. And I just like to have those on hand again, just I can just quickly throw those together to make some sort of bowl of food to eat before I rush out, or if I'm just in a hurry and busy that day, I just like to have those on hand. So tip number 6 is to chop fresh veggies and store them in your fridge for snacking, for salads, for bowls, etc. So this kind of ties in with another tip I have later, but making sure that you have fresh veggies on hand to snack on, because that can be one of like the biggest hindrances is to eating healthy snacks, is like you have to get out your carrots and maybe peel them and chop them, and or peel your cucumber or whatever and wash them and all that stuff. When you get home from the grocery store, just do that stuff for snacking and get it prepped, and maybe in like a little glass Tupperware or a bag or whatever works for you. You can portion them out in little jars, whatever you need that works for your schedule and how you live your life, because everybody's different. But making sure that you have veggies on hand for snacking. You can dip them in hummus, you can just eat them plain, you can add them to bowls, you can add them to salads. That is so helpful. So veggies, a lot of people don't prep them. Do it. It might seem like a pain, but again, that's kind of that discipline of remembering what you want and then sticking to it. Remembering what you want and then sticking to it. Tip number 7 is to make at least one sauce or dressing to go on your bowls and salads. I usually make a couple, but just try to pick one. So like, for example, on my YouTube channel, I have a sunflower seed ranch dressing. So you could make a batch of that and have like a jar of that in the fridge. Or you could do like a tahini dressing, which I like to have on hand because it's really easy to prepare and it's delicious on salads. So you could do a spicy peanut sauce, any kind of like sauce or dressing that you like to put on your bowls or your salads. Make that ahead of time and then just have it in the fridge ready to go, and you can just, whoa. And you can just plop it in your bowl or whatever you're using it for, again, like I said, and that can just make things really easy, because a lot of times something that stops people is like a sauce or a dressing, even if it's just like the sour cream for your burrito bowl. Like sometimes if I don't have that and I really want it, I just like, fine, I just will go get something out. And then I end up spending money and not sticking to what I really want to eat, and probably eating oil and more processed foods than I want to. So having like a sauce or dressing on hand is super, super helpful. And there's tons of different kinds. So do a little Pinterest search and find something that sounds good to you, and make that ahead of time at the beginning of your week on your prep day, and you will feel a lot better with your choices that you have moving forward into the week. So number 8, this is kind of the tip that I mentioned earlier that kind of ties in with another one, is to clean and prep all of your produce when you get home from the grocery store, so you actually use it before it goes bad, and as well as putting your stuff in your pantry and just putting stuff away where it belongs is really helpful. Refilling any pantry jars you have or spices, and getting rid of old things that aren't necessary, and cleaning out your fridge and keeping it clean so it's not just like gross and dirty and full of old vegetables that are like rotting away in their bags or whatever in the fridge, because we all know that happens. I mean, that's life, and it does for me at least sometimes. I'm working on it. And this has been really helpful, is to just like clean and prep my produce when I get home from the store. Again, this can take a chunk of time, but it's so worth it, because then you have healthy stuff on hand when you're at home and you just want something to eat, or you need to make something quick on the go, or make lunch for your kids or whatever. So having your stuff prepped and put away and clean feels good, and it makes you want to be in your kitchen more and just eat the way you want to eat. So that is a really huge tip, and it can be really easy to not do. And do I do it every time? No. But it's a tip that I think is important to share, and that it's something to work towards. So that's my input on cleaning and prepping your produce. Yeah. This is what happens when I just do like raw and real. I don't really know what's going on. So, okay. So the 9th tip that I have for you is to make some individual smoothie packs to go into the freezer, and then in the morning or whenever you're having your smoothie, you can just add some water or some non-dairy milk and just blend it up for a quick breakfast. So I used to have clients that would do this all the time. They would just make like little Ziploc bags if they had to get up. I had a client that used to have to get up at like 4 in the morning to catch a bus to go into town, and was like just not eating breakfast. So it was like, well, just make these individual smoothie packs, reuse your bags so that we're not feeling wasteful, and just put everything that you need into the bag, and then that way you just add your liquid in the morning, which is usually just water for me. So you can put, you know, banana and like frozen banana, frozen blueberries, some PB2 powder, some spinach, any kind of like superfood additives like, you know, flaxseed, chia seed, anything you want to add to that kind of isn't liquidy, and then freeze them, and you can make them all different throughout the week, and then just pull it out, put it in your blender, put a little liquid in it, and blend it up, and you have a smoothie. You're good to go, ready, simple. They're good to go. Like for kids, you can have them made for kids. Do like chocolate peanut butter ones, so when they get home from school, they can make one of those that are healthy with, you know, frozen bananas and cacao powder and peanut butter powder and dates and all that stuff. And that just makes it really easy. So if you're short on time and you're just finding it hard to eat breakfast or to have something healthy on hand that's kind of sweet, smoothie packs are a great way to go. Some people do them in jars too. So just find what works for you. But that's another kind of like thing to experiment with if you're struggling with like finding enough time in the mornings and stuff. So the 10th tip that I have is to just not overwhelm yourself. Don't overwhelm yourself. Even just a little bit of prep is better than none, and keeping that in mind is so important. Like I said, even just picking 2 things and making them, or just one. If you're like, I'm just gonna make a big batch of chili and I'm gonna figure out the rest of my week as I go. Great. Doing a little bit is better than none, so don't get overwhelmed and just do none, because you are gonna come midweek and you're gonna find yourself just like, I'm not eating healthy, I'm spending money, and why didn't I prep? And then you get down and it's that cycle. So sacred discipline, just remember what you want and stay on top of it, because this can be so helpful and it can be fun. Like, meal prep doesn't have to be boring and unfun, which a lot of people kind of think that it is. I usually like blast some music. Lately I've been listening to pretty much Princess Nokia only, exclusively, while I food prep and cook and clean and anything that I'm doing. She's coming to Treefort Music Fest, by the way. If you don't know who she is, check her out. She's about to blow up. She already kind of is, and she's amazing. So anyway, I put on music and I just dance around in the kitchen and light some candles, maybe put on some incense, and just make it fun and some like quality me time, which maybe a lot of people don't get enough of, and maybe you won't get that when you're food prepping. Your kids will be around, your husband, your friends, whatever, but try to make it fun and involve your kids, involve your family too, if it's easier that way, and makes it more doable for you. Again, everyone's different. You have to find what works for you. Okay, I have a couple little bonus tips for you. So bonus number 1 is to make even bigger batches and freeze the leftovers for super easy mealtime. So like I said earlier, just freezing your food. You can freeze a lot of different things. And then you just pop it out and heat it up and you've got stuff to go. So if you have a day where you're like, I don't really have anything to do this Sunday, I'm just gonna like prep a bunch of food to have on hand for this month in case I want to pull it out, or in case something happens in an emergency. I mean, things happen, so preparing is great. So that's another little tip I have for you. And then bonus number 2 is this is so helpful for me, keep a grocery list on your fridge, just like a blank grocery list. We have ours just clipped onto the fridge with like a magnet, and add things to it as you start to run out of them or you are completely out of them. That way, when you make your list to go to the store, you already know most of what you need, or you can just use that actual list as your list. I usually have other things I want to add based off of what I want to make that week, so I use that as like my what I really truly need list, and it helps so much. I don't have to keep going to the kitchen and looking, do I need this, do I need that? It's just, I know what I need. It's all right there. So that has been really helpful for me and saves me time as well. So those are my tips for you guys. I hope this was a helpful episode. I hope that you got some inspiration for how to save some time in the kitchen and make meal planning kind of more fun and not so overwhelming. Again, a little bit of prep is better than none. So just even if you're starting with that tip, you're good to go. Do a little bit. Do a little bit. Yeah, so I hope you guys are liking the How to Vegan podcast. If you guys are, please head over to iTunes and leave a review and a rating. If you leave a 5-star rating, awesome. Y'all are awesome. And the people that are leaving reviews, I love you guys so much. It helps push the podcast up so more and more people see it. So even if you just head over there and just say like, this podcast is great, it doesn't have to be like a detailed review. But like a little comment on how you are enjoying this podcast or whatever can be really helpful, especially to new people kind of checking out the podcast and wondering if they should start listening. So if you guys are liking it, do a huge favor for me and just pop over to iTunes and leave a little rating and review. That'd be awesome. So just hit my chin on that. So yeah, again, I hope this episode was helpful for you guys. Anything that I mentioned link-wise or anything like that will be on this episode's show notes or in the description of this episode. You can always, like I said, head over to kristenemily.com, click on the podcast tab. You'll see each episode there. You can find the YouTube channel there, the links to iTunes, the link to SoundCloud, the link to Stitcher, all of that. All of that stuff is on my website. So if you're ever like, where do I find this? Go to my website, very easily navigable from there. So I hope you guys are having an awesome day, whenever it is, whatever time it is, whenever you're listening to this, whatever you're doing. Thanks for giving me a little bit of time. out of your day listening to this podcast, and that hopefully means you're enjoying it. So thanks again. You guys seriously motivate me to just want to keep doing these, because once I'm done recording these, I'm like, that was fun. I can't wait to do the next one. So thank you guys for motivating me and for being so positive and loving what I'm doing and loving that I'm, really trying to help animals, my number one, and then help people feel great and help the environment feel amazing as well. So thanks again for tuning in. I'm gonna stop just like rambling because I'm trying to do an outro without having an outro actually planned, like I said earlier. So thanks again. You guys are awesome. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. You guys are awesome. I will catch you guys in the next episode.